Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to be doing this series. We're going to be doing a series of videos. I'm going to be doing a series of videos all about the GLP-1 debacle, if you will, explaining things that I think practitioners and many people out in the space are not really addressing, or if they are, they're addressing little bits of it. And I think the education piece of this is missing, and I think it's important for you to know this information because it'll empower you to do, if you're on the shot, to do so much better, to think about things that you haven't really thought about. And so I'm going to do a whole bunch of these. So subscribe, stick with me, send comments, share it, because I really think that this information is going to be super helpful. So if you're on a GLP-1 right now, whether it's the semaglutide, tirzepatide, whatever your pen is, okay, I want you to stick with me because we're going to talk about the things that you were never told about the day you got the prescription. More likely it was, very, very little information. If anything, watch what you're eating, go exercise, maybe you were given a book, okay? But what I want you to know is that it's not a you problem. All the years of the on again, off again diets, and you guys have done it. You've been there, okay? The I'll start Monday, the promises that didn't make it to Tuesday. This is not a lack of willpower. This is your biology speaking a language that I think nobody ever taught you. These hunger signals, there's all kinds of signaling in the body that does not get talked about, that does not get covered. And it's starting to come up as a result of the GLP-1s. But I want to amplify it because I think it's important that you hear this. And we're not going to get too sciencey, but it's the biology. It's your body speaking to you. And it's important that we pay attention to that because the fact that the medication is working doesn't mean that somehow you failed before or things were your fault or that, again, that you failed. Okay. But I want to tell you something else. That 15-minute, the initial appointment with your prescriber, maybe it wasn't even 15 minutes. Maybe it was a call over the phone. They don't cover what goes on when the medication either stops working or when the things that were working start to look different, when the scale stops moving and maybe your energy starts to fluctuate. Like there are a lot of things that happen as you move through this. It's a very different process than any probably diet you've been on or off of. And maybe you're feeling like the weight's coming off, but you're looking in the mirror and you're not feeling the way you thought you were going to feel. Or more importantly, that I hear more than anything is what comes next. Nobody's really talking about that because everyone thinks you could be on it forever. And maybe there's some reality to that, but it's got to be nuanced because there's no way to stay on it at the level that you're at. And again, nobody's talking about it. Maybe you are the person who's tried everything. You've tried every plan, every program, every Monday morning reset, and you have fought your way through more diets than you can count. And every single time the weight came back, right? You didn't gain just the weight back. There was the shame. You started to believe that this is who you are. Maybe you're the problem. I hear this. I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing because it's sort of this chuckle of I hear this all day long. And now the GLP-1s have come along. And for the first time in years, probably decades for many of you, the food noise has gone quiet. The scale's moving. More than anything, people are noticing. And there's a piece of you that just went, oh, finally, you've exhaled for the first time in a long time. And look, I want to honor that. I have people who are close to me who have lost weight and they feel great. And so I do want to honor that because that relief for so many of you is real and it's deserving. But, if you've been on it for a while and you want to start to cycle off or something is starting to feel off or things like fatigue and you're tired and you're not getting a full night's sleep and maybe your workouts are starting to feel harder than they should, or more importantly, or just as importantly, you're starting to feel more mushy. When I say mushy, right, your muscles. And maybe you're a little weaker and maybe your hair is thinning and A big one that we're seeing, your mood, right? You're not so excited about things. You're sort of like your mood has been dulled or flat. And I don't know, did you bring this up to your physician and or your prescriber? And maybe they just brushed it off because look, you're losing the weight, right? They shrug it and say, oh, the numbers look good and that's that. And you walk around going, am I crazy? Like, am I ungrateful? A lot of people like, am I ungrateful? And yeah, people think, well, is anybody going to now look at me and not just my weight? And we see this all over social, especially with this thinness craze. So, look, you're not crazy, you're not ungrateful, and I don't think you're asking too much, but because you are asking the right question. And so the answer is the reason I am doing this, because the truth about the prescription is important. Here's what happens when you get the shot, the GLP-1 prescription, right? You get a diagnosis because they need to give you something. You get a dosing schedule. You get the warning about the nausea or whatever is going to happen, the, overt side effects of the gastric distress. And then they say, okay, we'll follow up in a month or 3 months. Like, that's it. That's all that most people get. So nobody's asking what's going on with your muscle and what's happening with your gut, because guess what? Slowing digestion changes things downstream, and nobody is looking at this. Things like what's going on with your nervous system, your stress hormones, your sleep, your nutrients. Like, you're eating a fraction of what you used to eat. And, the other part of that is what's going on in your mind, because the appetite suppression does quiet the noise around food, but it doesn't fix your relationship with it. And I've done podcasts on this, like the emotional eating, the body image, the identity that you've created in your own body, right? That doesn't just dissolve when you take the shot. It doesn't. And maybe it's, softer, but when you go off of this, the noise comes roaring back. And that's where so much of the fear is. And here's what really breaks my heart, because I see this in practice all the time. Nobody tells you what happens when things about the medication change, whether it's a dosing change, whether it's a prescription change, whether your insurance company stops covering it, or when you plateau, or even like maybe you just want to come off. But if nothing underneath it, if the muscle hasn't been addressed, the muscle is going to come off. How quickly and how much depends on what you do while you're on this, because we know it comes off. And as muscle comes off, the metabolism goes right with it. So there's that piece. There's the gut piece. There's the mind piece. And so when your shot goes away, you're in panic mode that everything else is going to tank. Okay. And if we don't address all of this, your mind is going to go back to the old belief that, oh, I failed at this awful, right? That is the belief. So here's what I want you to take from this video, even if you remember nothing else, okay? The medication is a tool. It is not meant to be the transformation. It can't be. It's not possible. So the transformation is what you're going to build while the shot is working. And nobody should be on these medications without without a scaffolding, without a foundation. Okay. And so, look, this is why this becomes personal for me, right? Because I know what it feels like to be successfully treated and both abandoned at the same time. Okay, 25 years ago, if you guys don't know my story, 25 years ago, 6 weeks after giving birth to my third child, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer, right? I had a newborn in my arms, literally. She was 6 weeks old. I had surgery for a tumor in my neck. I had weeks of chemo because I had a large tumor in my chest. And thank God I survived. I was cured. That is the word that they used. But I didn't feel cured. I was exhausted in my bones. I was getting sick every few weeks and I couldn't take care of the kids, right? I was cured, but I was just so depleted. And then I went back to the doctors and who were great, right? But I said something's still wrong. And you know what they told me? They were like, well, we healed your cancer. That was it. That was the whole answer. The disease was gone as far as they were concerned. I was done, right? Nobody asked why a young mother's body grew cancer in the first place. Nobody asked what the treatment had cost me. Nobody looked at me. So if that sounds familiar, sure, it's a different diagnosis, but it's the same dismissal. The number looks great, right? Is today's version, when they say that, the number looks great, that's the same version of we healed your cancer, right? What saved me was not another prescription. It was walking through a different door in a world of integrative medicine, whole foods, treatments that worked with my body instead of just against the disease. And here's the wild part. Like, I was trained, okay? I was a registered dietitian. Like, I knew about food. But what I learned with food as medicine in the 7 days that I went to a clinic in Mexico literally shifted my whole, like, everything I learned in the 4 years of school that I went to, right? Like, think about that. You know, so week by week, I got my life back, not because of one magic treatment, but because for the first time, I was looking at the root. Someone else helped me address the root of the problem. And that experience changed my life, changed the trajectory, and it lit a fire in me that has been burning for 25 years, right? It's why I went all in into functional medicine when it wasn't really even a thing back then. This is why I've spent my life asking the questions that conventional medicine keeps skipping. It's not just what is your diagnosis. It's more about why is this happening in this body, in this person, in this life. And it's why when I watch literally millions of people get handed a GLP-1 pen and sent off with a wave and no plan and no protection and no one watching what happens next, I could not stay quiet because I know how that story ends when no one's looking at the root or the foundation. You deserve better. I needed someone to tell me that once. So now I am telling you, you deserve better. And so what does getting to the root in this GLP-1 space look like? This is hope, right? This is the possibility. This is the possibility that I see happen on the day-to-day. It looks like protecting your muscle on purpose. This has to happen. I see people all day long who are just taking the shot and saying, okay, I'll build the muscle after, I'll build the muscle after. No. Okay, it does not work like that. You lose the muscle, it is super, super, super hard to gain it back, especially if you are in perimenopause or menopause. So I want you to hear this. If you are a peri or a menopausal woman, it becomes so much harder and more challenging if you don't put in the time now, right? Because your metabolism will shift down and that is going to last you a lifetime. Your metabolism will just constantly be lower. So that's important, right? You need to feed your body strategically so that eating less doesn't mean that you're nourishing yourself less. Every bite has to count. It's not about restriction. It is about precision. And honestly, like, it is life-changing when you learn it because it looks like paying attention to your gut and your nervous system and your stress response, like the whole terrain that your body, that the medication is working in. It's about knowing your numbers, not just the weight numbers, right? But what's happening inside. So you're not flying blind. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what those signals are saying. And truly, it's about doing the inner work because the inner work is the magic, the mindset, the identity. Because this is what I've learned over 2 decades of walking beside people, with people on their healing journeys, is that your body follows your beliefs. Your body follows your thoughts. And if deep down you still believe you're the person who's always gaining the weight back, your biology, your physiology is going to eventually agree with you. Healing your relationship with food and yourself isn't like the soft, like woo-woo optional part. It really isn't. This is the work. Mindset is medicine. We know that. And I'm going to say that forever and ever because I know it's true, and it's because I've done this work. I have walked in this path. So when we put all of this together, the science, the soul, the labs, and the belief, the medication stops being a crutch that you're so terrified to lose. It becomes what it was actually meant to be, a tool that opens a new door for you. And you become the transformation that gets to walk through that. So it's the difference between losing weight and getting your life back. And I don't think for most of you, if you're watching this, you didn't come this far to heal halfway, okay? I created, and I'm so excited, I created the Beyond the Shot program for you because this is a functional medicine program built specifically and only for people on GLP-1s, whether you've been on and have come off or just getting on. It walks through everything I described: the muscle, the metabolism, how to protect metabolism, real strategy, gut and nervous system support, functional labs, and the mental and emotional work that makes the results permanent instead of like this temporarily borrowed success, okay? And most importantly, it's a community of people walking the same road with you, guided by someone, me, who's spent 25 years learning how to get to the root and who knows personally what it feels like when nobody's looking for the root, okay? So if anything in this video made you feel seen, if you caught yourself going, yeah, right, or if just intuitively you said, that's me, then trust that. Right? That's your inner wisdom. That's your inner voice. And don't argue with it, because the more you lean into that, the more you're going to get out of it. So if you want to know more about this amazing program, there's a video that we've got, a webinar. Come take a look. You'll have the link here. The door's open, and I would be honored to walk this with you. Okay? So over the next several weeks, like I mentioned, I'm going to walk you through what your prescriber, your practitioner, what the world out there is not telling you. Every week, one piece of the puzzle: real talk, real science, real hope. And the place that, we're starting here is the transformation. The tool is the transformation. But where does the problem show up? It's your muscle. Because look, quietly, without a single symptom, you may be losing the one tissue that determines whether or not your results last a lifetime, or just 18 months or 12 months. Most people don't find out until the damage is done. But you're going to find out next week. Okay, so subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you there. Until then, remember, your body there's nothing wrong with you. Your body is speaking to you. And you finally found someone who knows how to listen. So I'll see you soon.